few slides pertaining to things that you can think about for the next week to 2 weeks. One, again, I can't, I'm fixated on this weather pattern, as maybe many of us are. The contrast this year has just been phenomenal. If you're a student of wheat or a student of agriculture, of course, it can make your head spin. At this station, and it only gets worse as you go east into the biggest wheat counties that we have in Michigan. I think since May 15, they had maybe 3/10 of an inch of rain. And we probably could live on that, except that this is also had some very warm days, about 10 days over 80. And that's up to June 1. Since then, it hasn't. We haven't gotten any relief at all. And so much of us have not experienced this kind of drought level, and we're not sure what it means, but I'm not feeling real positive. And the rest of the state, or much of the state, of course, is still having a hard time getting their row crops in. The contrast is phenomenal. It's also that as we go into harvest, you're going to see, I think, quite a bit of difference in terms of maturity where we are. Based on weather patterns, sometimes we're only a couple weeks apart from north to south in terms of harvest. Today, in northern Saginaw County and along the lake, they're flowering now, still putting on fungicides. And that's about where this station was, just an hour away a couple weeks ago. So quite a spread that way. And I haven't been to the southern tier to see where they're at, but I'm sure they're moving along too. But quite a contrast. Probably a contrast in quality, certainly a contrast in the diseases going forward. So it's going to be clearly an interesting year. If we could average 93 or 90 bushels as a state, right now it sounds pretty optimistic to me. Jeff and Jason worked hard on this map. We pulled that together for this area. And so again, starting here, we're very dry. But as you know, in April and May, just event after event, real pocket in Monroe County, but whole southern tier in the southwest. And then I guess some of you guys got hammered again this past weekend. So I think even the dry weather is better than that, I would guess, in most cases. But I still get lots of reports of guys saying, boy, this is the best week we've ever had. So if you're in between those two extremes, you're probably looking pretty good this year. It seems that a lot of people are still using bin run seed for seed, and we don't necessarily encourage that or discourage it. But one of the points is in the next couple of weeks to watch for, if I'm looking for candidates to save as seed, just a precaution. This is the one disease I think we get in trouble with more than anything else, and this is loose smut. This will be showing up in just a couple of weeks' time. Don't confuse it with sooty mold, but as you're looking at your fields in the next 2 weeks, make some of those decisions. With loose smut, it's a fungal disease that affects the seed. One head will infect a lot of the wheat in that field, and you shake it and it all disappears. It's just dusty mummies. That's all there's left. That's quite different than sooty mold. Sooty mold can land on the house and your maple trees and everything else. It just collects there and doesn't do anything. We all have that to some extent. Loose smut is quite different. And I find that guys that try to run their bin run seed have a difficult time getting it all. So all of a sudden that one head in an acre can turn into several acres from that seed that's saved the next year. It infects the seeds in these areas, and then we plant it. So I generally would rather not have you use any fields that have any of that if you're contemplating saving some seed. Indiana's complaining about quite a bit of that this year, and we're asking us, and so we'll have to watch for that too. The other thing that I can't help but think about a little bit is what weed seeds are out there. And if you're running bin run seed, or if you're not, just be cautious. We seem to be doing a pretty good job of spreading these. So this is windgrass, right? It's the softest head, as soft as can be, very tiny seeds. In the thumb, we know it very well, but I know it's gotten to central Michigan now. This one is carried by the combine. So when you are combining, keep that in mind. I guarantee you, the next field you're in, you'll be taking in wheat or next fall soybeans in the front end, and you'll you'll be seeding windgrass out the back end. That's just how it is. Sheet is another one I get nervous about. If you run bin run seed, it carries in the seed and right into the bin and can carry it right back out. And we used to have a lot more trouble with that in Michigan than we used to, because guys are using more certified seed, I think, and doing a better job of cleaning. So that's the other one that I'd be nervous about using, especially if I want to use bin run seed. And lastly, what Christy was talking about is this bluegrass. And my question to you is, if you give it some thought, especially if it's around your neighborhood, how is this spreading? It's a perennial that probably acts more as an annual, but I'm just seeing it in fields that we have never seen it before. It just seems to all of a sudden be there. We know it used to be associated with hay, but right now it might even become more important than all the other grasses combined. So watch for that one. Christy has a really nice sheet in your packet about that. But my question to you is, how is that spreading? What's your observations, if you've got any history with that? Because it's not obvious to me. I'm not sure if it's in the combine. I don't think it's in the seed, certainly not in certified seed, I wouldn't think. But it is spreading. And so one quiz for you is, how is that getting around? And I'd like to know. Oh, then lastly, if we are seeing after Purcell or Carumba some discoloration of the flag leaf, watch for this if you would. And if you have it quite severely, let me know. I'd really like to try to figure that out so we can avoid it in the future. This kind of loss can be significant. And I'm afraid it's self-inflicted. So it's not the safety of Purcell and Carumba are very good. I think it's more of a question of what else are we putting in the tank? And we're not throwing in herbicides or nitrogen for the most part. It's probably non-surfactants and maybe insecticides. But anyway, been getting this call for the last few days. So if you're seeing this, you won't be alone, but maybe we could solve that one too. What's the situation where we're getting some burn on the flag leaf from a pretty doggone innocent spray, an important spray, but it is happening. We saw a little bit a few years ago too, as did Ontario, but we'd really like to learn, okay, how do we need to tweak our program so this doesn't happen? So those are the few queries I have for you, Dennis.
All right, thanks, Martin. As we wrap up, I have just one last kind of plea, I guess, for maybe a little bit of help from you. One of the things we've been talking about is these wheat yield components, and what I would like to do is assess kind of where we are, and if we can pull some samples and some wheat from scattered around the state, we're going to have yields ranging from probably 70 bushel to 120 bushel or higher. What are these yield components look like in these different yield environments? So remember what our yield components are. It's the number of heads per square foot, it's the kernels per head, and then the 1,000 kernel weight. Those three things make up your yield. And whatever combination those are, and you want to maximize those three things because you want to maximize your yield. In the UK, they have approximately 45 heads per square foot, 50 kernels per head, and a 50 gram 1,000 kernel weight. Okay? In Ontario, they figure they're about 65 heads per square foot, but look at their kernels per head and their 1,000 kernel weight, quite a bit lower at 35. Where are we at in Michigan? I don't have a good feel for where we are, what the range in these yield components are. So what I would ask of you is, if anybody is interested, I have some sheets up here. It's just a worksheet to fill out, and I'd ask you to go out and collect a sample. You measure off 19 1/4 inches in a row if you're 7.5 inch row spacing. Count the number of heads, thresh the seed out of them, count the total number of seeds, divide the number of seeds by the number of heads, and that's how many seeds per head. And you can stick the seeds in an envelope, and I'd be happy to collect them and weigh them. If you have the ability to weigh them on something as like an ounce or a gram scale, go ahead and weigh it, but we need to get as accurate as possible with that. And if I can collect that information from scattered across the state, we don't have to cover every field or anything like that, but if we can get a better idea of what yield components we have out there, we can start designing some research projects to try to tackle some of these things. Some people say that in the UK, part of the reason that they're able to get this 50,000 or 50 gram 1,000 kernel weight is because their grain fill period is so long. What can we do to increase the grain fill with the grain fill period that we have? Are we just stuck with the weather we have, or is there anything we can do? Well, I don't want to sit and say, oh, good enough is good enough, and not try. I say we can try to figure out some things, see if we can improve them and find the right combination of those things to give us the maximum yield, because I don't think we've reached our maximum yield potential. If they can get that there, we can get it here. I think so. We just got to figure out what we've got to do to make that happen. So if anybody is interested in doing this, there's some information in here. We need to know who's submitting it, the field location, information about the variety. We'd really like to have that if possible, and any of this other information, but ultimately, this is the sample data. This is really what we really want to know. It's nice to have the other background information, but so if anybody's interested, come up here and get a sheet, see me or see Martin, and we'll do that. We'll have some interns that'll be doing some sample collection across the state as well. I just wanted to mention diagnostics. Martin had a couple pictures of some disease and leaf issues up there. The Michigan Wheat Program pays for diagnostics, so if you have any disease problems or anything like that you want to have submitted to the MSU Diagnostic Lab, we can submit it, and the Michigan Wheat Program will pay for the diagnostics on those. So the form is on the Michigan Wheat website, miwheat.org, under Farmer Perks section, and then you can find the form for the diagnostics. And just collect samples. There's instructions there on how to do it, and send them off, and then that way you can get it paid for. Okay, one of the last things, at the conclusion of this, we would like to invite everybody to go to the state yield trial location, which is, we are right here in the Saginaw Valley Research and Extension Center. Right to the north of us here is, what is that road up here? Krieger. So if you go up here to Krieger Road, come down to the T, it says Van Buren, and go south, right there are the state yield trial site. We have 105 varieties with signs out there. If you want to look at some different varieties, maybe you're thinking about changing varieties, you want to go see what they look like in the field, there's a huge variation in height, color, awns, awnless, leaf architecture. You can get a chance to look at all the different, I think there's 80 commercial varieties, and there's 25 experimental varieties that are out there. So come on out there and see it. If you want a map, if you're not exactly sure, I put some maps on the registration table on your way out there. Jody has a couple things she wanted to say, and then we'll get wrapped up.
So I wanted to take a minute. Connie, I know, is hiding in the back. We want to thank Connie. She's not going to come out. She's waiting from the back. And Paul and the team here, we got here yesterday, and a lot of the tables were set up, the chairs were out. We just pulled things together and helped make this happen. So I want to make sure we take a minute and give them a big thank you for hosting us and helping with this event. I also want to thank my friend over here, Dennis. We are very, very excited to have Dennis on board. He is the MSU Wheat Specialist, and he hasn't been here that long, but it really seems like it's come together really well as a partnership. And working with him and Martin, it's great to have somebody out there making all those stops happen and helping me get all the handouts and all that kind of stuff. So I also want to make sure we take a minute and thank them for all they do and all their work. We also have a couple special helpers in the back. We have one with a little orange headband. Rachel, stand up and wave. This is Rachel Newsom. And Rachel is here helping us. She helped a couple years ago and had so much fun she wanted to come back. So she helped yesterday, set all this stuff up, and got up at 6 o'clock this morning to come again today and do this. And we're going to be home by 6:15 tonight for a softball game. So we're getting things covered there. And I also want to thank Deb Merrill. Deb has started helping me. I have a little story on Deb. One of my first jobs right out of college was with the Michigan Department of Ag and Rural Development. And Deb taught me how to do events. So now that she's retired at a very young age, has some time on her hands, so she's back helping us at Wheat Stuff, so you will see her around. And a big thank you to them, because we started yesterday at 9:15. So it's been a long couple days, but I appreciate all the help in pulling this together. So let's give them a thank you. Lastly, I also want to make sure that we thank the board. I know most of you are up here, and Dave did introductions this morning, but appreciate all the support and the vision to develop programming like this and bring everyone together, along with the speakers and the researchers, to just help make these days happen. So thank you so much, and so much for the support. We will be back here in March of 2019 for the annual meeting. So make sure you watch your calendars there. We do rotate that between the Lansing area and up here in Frankenmuth. In the past, that's the meeting that we've done at the Pavilion Inn, but we will be moving it right here to this location in March. I'm pretty sure that's going to be March 20th, but I do not have a final confirmation from the speakers at this point. Then next summer, we will be back to campus for the field day. So if you missed one of our events, or if you heard something today and you want to hear that again, you've probably seen Steve. Steve's been at all the stops. He goes to all of our events. And I've known Debbie a long time, but I've known Steve even longer. He knew me right out of college when I interned with him. Yeah, all the way through college and interned with them and helped. But he goes and he takes all these presentations. So if you go to our website, mimeet.org, and you go to the education tab, there's previous events. You can look at the agenda for all the field days and the annual meetings, and there'll be an agenda just like you have in your packets. You just click on the person's name, and you can actually see the presentation that they did, either at the meeting or out in the field. You also can click on and you can get the handouts that you have in your packets. And if it's the annual meeting, you can click and you can look at the PowerPoint presentations. So all this stuff that you see, it's out there, it's available. Just make sure you take advantage of it. If you also want to know more, as this research is wrapped up, we take those final reports and those final presentations, and those are on the website too, under the research tab. So one of the goals of the board has been, it's great that we do all this research, and about 65% of our budget goes to research, but we feel we have not done a good job if you can't get to those research results. So that information is there and it's available. So with that, make sure you mark your calendars for our upcoming events. On the way out, please turn in your evaluation forms. We do look at those blue forms as we plan the next event, so we want to make sure that we get those. Also, make sure that you do turn in your pencils and your bubble sheets, and pick up your maps for the variety trials. You're going to want to know what those new varieties are coming in 19 and 20, so pick those up and take a stop. So with that, I just want to thank you, and I'm going to turn it over to Dennis.
All right. Before you go, let's give Jody a round of applause. She worked pretty hard. When you fill out your bubble sheets, please fill them out completely, because we've had MDA let us know that they had several bubble sheets that were not completely filled out. If it's not completely filled out and they can't figure out what information goes in there, you won't get the credits. So make sure you fill out all of the sections completely, and make sure you circle in those bubbles with your pencil completely. Don't just put an X on it or a line on it. Circle in the bubble, okay? Other than that, pick up a map to go out in the field, like Jody said, and thanks for coming, and have a great rest of your day.